It is 6:30. We'll call the meeting in order. If you please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is a regular meeting of the Cedarburg School Board and is a public meeting. Prior notices have been placed in the district and additional copies were forwarded to the city and town of Cedarburg as well as the news graphic and the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Welcome to your first meeting.
Thank you.
We'll go right into recognitions.
All right, thank you. This evening we have 3 recognitions on the agenda. We're going to postpone the recognition number 3, Wisconsin RTI Center recognition for Webster Middle School, to the August meeting. Due to illness, some of the individuals are not able to be recognized tonight, so we decided to move it a little bit. So the first recognition is for the 2021-22 Student Perfect Attendance. I'd like to congratulate the following Cedarburg School District students for achieving perfect attendance during the 2021-22 school year. They are Alex Blum, Ella Blum, Nick Brophy, Richard Cass, Colin Dimmer, Vincent Fry, Ryan Kersey, Alexander Kim, Andrew Curtin, Kara Coots, Elise Lynn, Eric Lynn, Emma Litt, Brenna Lusk, Joshua Moslick, Mason S., Juliet Schaefer, Vivian Schaefer, Tyler Sherrill, Matthew Teplin, Andrew Thompson, Andrew Wateska, Madeline Wuteska, and Zachary Zaliski. The second recognition will be presented by the Cedarburg High School Athletic Director, John Hammond.
Good evening. I'm excited to share the outstanding accomplishments of our spring student athletes. Before we get into those individual accomplishments, just want to give a few quick updates here. If you take a look on the right, we have a great run going on right now with our teams. We won 5 conference championships this past year, which ties the record previously set in 2019 and the past year, 2021. And you see the sports listed right here with boys volleyball, girls golf, girls swim dive, girls volleyball, and softball. And then also on the left here, we continue to work with Dr. Brittany Garrick, a sports psychologist. To my knowledge, we are the only athletic department that's partnering with a sports psychologist. This is something that you commonly see at the collegiate level and you see it across the board at the professional level. So it's something that our student athletes, I know they appreciate. Our coaches are very, very excited about. Just last night we had a coaches meeting. We talked about team culture with her, and you see in the first bullet right there with being process oriented. That's something that we stress across the board in our athletic department. We really get away from outcomes. We don't want to talk about, hey, we're going to win conference championships, that we're going to win this game here. We want to focus on the process, okay? And the important thing about that is that's going to also, you're going to see those results and those attributes over in the classroom, okay? You don't just say, hey, I'm going to get an A on a test, okay? Because there's a process in place for that. There's study skills and habits, no different than with practice. So we're excited to be partnering with her, and there's been a lot of great results and things that we've seen through that. The process continues. That's something that we continue to refine. And then also something that we have hot off the press yesterday, some data that we just pulled. We have a record number of students that are participating in clubs and activities. We have 84% of our students are participating in one club or sport. Okay, so we have just under 1,100 students this past year, and 84% are participating in one. The previous record was 81% in 2019, so we're very proud of that. Okay, and if you take a look at that, that's a result of positive experiences that our students are having here at CHS, and personally, I feel we have great coaches, we have great teachers, we have great advisors here at CHS, and that's something that we measure very closely. And, this past year, like I said, here we have record number of students participating in athletics and obviously clubs. And that's something that, we look at these conference championships, advancing on the state, but we want our students engaging in activities around CHS here, and that's very important to us. Okay. So getting into our recognitions here, starting off with baseball. For honorable mention here, you see up at the top and also at the bottom here, we have Owen Brezevar, Sam Moses, Everett King, and Braden Gall, and then we also have second team there, Noah Josephson. And then our softball team advanced to state for the second year in a row here. You see this is right before our send-off that we do at the high school, so this is a picture of the team. And then for their recognition here, you see for second team, we have Sarah Prom, Megan Lakey, Maddie Mosier, first team all-conference, conference player of the year, Peyton Monticelli. I'll talk more about her in a second. And first team also is Cassidy Gall. Peyton was also a first team All-American, which in my time was the first time we got a first team All-American. She was Gatorade Player of the Year for the second year in a row, and she was the Journal Sentinel softball player of the year. So quite the athlete, just quite the individual on and off. And then we have boys lacrosse for honorable mention here. And you see, our stock photos here. You'll see some pictures here throughout the presentation here. So that's for your enjoyment. We have Sean Dingle. We have Nels here. Tyler Campbell, Tyler Seafeld, and Alex Cass are all honorable mention. And then we go on to girls lacrosse for honorable mention. We have Emily Roble, Abigail Sandler, and Katina Zimmerscheid. And then for second team, we have Zoe Keenan. And then back-to-back male field athlete of the year is Gabe Olson. He's had a tremendous career at CHS. And then track and field for state bound, we have Jack Allure, Annika Otters, Caleb Raymaker, and again, we have Gabe advanced to state. And then our sectional champions here, we have our 4x100 and our 100-meter dash here. We have Amanda Babcock, Maya Evans, Jenna Rush, and Rachel Pitchka, and we have Maya Evans again. And then we had 2 school records broken this past year, in the 4x100 and the 4x200 here. So we have these individuals up here. And then our girls soccer team advanced the state, so this is their state-bound picture. This was a picture taken right before they took off the state. And you see here, we give T-shirts to all of our student athletes that advance the state here, so you see these state-bound shirts. And then our head girls soccer coach, Robert Williams, he earned his 200 career win against Homestead earlier this year. And then we have Mary Strobel. She was first team All-State, or first team All-Conference, second team All-State, I'm sorry about that. And then we have Callan Noble, first team All-Conference, Claire Van Erman, second team All-Conference. And then we had Jackie Stever, second team All-Conference, Grace Kittle, honorable mention, and Autumn Snow, honorable mention. And then for tennis here, we had our singles. Chadden he's had just an outstanding career here. You see, he was Journal Sentinel Player of the Year, and then our doubles combo here with Keenan and Brandon had great season too. They also advanced to state. And then boys golf here, we had Joseph Kloiber, Ethan Tews, and Philip Murphy here. So we had Joseph's first team, Ethan second, and Philip third team there. And that concludes our accolades for the spring sports season. Does anyone have any questions?
Just congratulate you. That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you. We're getting ready for the fall sports season here, so I have some more good news to hopefully share with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Moves us to the consent agenda.
All right, with regards to the consent agenda, board members, I ask that you approve the minutes from the regular board meeting on June 15th and the executive session on June 15th. The budget and finance report, which includes the check register, check detail, and credit card transaction report, and the personnel report. And Conrad is here to provide an overview of the personnel report.
Thanks. This evening we have 3 resignations for approval and 2 contracts to approve. Brandon Ruff, social studies teacher at Webster, Ben Wynn, math teacher at the high school, and Kristen Sweta Butler, reading teacher at Westlawn, have all submitted resignations. And we have extended contracts to Scott May, assistant principal at Thorson and Parkview, and Ryan Anderson, educator at Webster, and we seek approval of those this evening.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
So moved. I would second that.
Motion a second, any discussion, corrections? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Takes us to public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Public comment? Anyone wishing to speak? Not seeing anyone, I won't read that long statement. And we'll move on to recommendations.
All right, we have 3 recommendations this evening. First recommendation is the required 2022-23 Notice of Academic Standards that will be presented by Alan Grohl, Director of Curriculum Instruction.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, based on Wisconsin Statute 120.12 and CSD Board Policy 151.2, the bylaw, we annually recognize the standards that we're going to use for the up and coming school year. I've linked a document in there that would go onto the website and communicate to families, and that's used internally to guide the development of coursework. So you can, you saw that before you came to the meeting, so recommendation is that you approve the use of the Wisconsin Model Academic Standards as the floor for the Cedarburg School District standards for the 22-23 school year.
So we just have to approve the floor, the Wisconsin standards, use them as a floor, but we don't have to approve the Cedarburg standards themselves, or just the ones?
You do not.
Just the ones.
It is a public acknowledgement that for Cedarburg School District, we incorporate other standards in addition to the Wisconsin standards. So the documents that we're starting to create show that. The Wisconsin standards set at the floor of level 1, and then level 2 starts to show national and other documents that we use to shape coursework.
You're starting to see those in the red on the back of we have.
I have a question. Alan? was there
Yes.
something?
No, thanks.
I looked at the standard document, and this might just be me as a new board member now, and I really liked how for some of the subjects, there were the Wisconsin standards, like the Wisconsin DPI standards, and then others, there were both the Wisconsin DPI standards and then some Cedarburg standards. We were talking to do things like the Cedarburg way. And I just wondered if for some subjects, if it's ever an option to incorporate additional like Cedarburg standards. So I looked at the math one, like, you know, literacy and math, those are kind of 2 of the top, you know, things I would be drawn to just reviewing it. And looked at the math one, and for math, we just had the DPI state standards. But I took a look at what it said from DPI, and it had a lot of mentions of the word equity in it, and referenced, you know, some new standards that they were incorporating in their, you know, most recent standards, and some ideology in there, and they referenced a book quite a bit that was called, let's see here, the book was called The Impact of Identity in K-8 Mathematics, Rethinking Equity-Based Practices. And I was just wondering, is it kind of just the standard to just always go with the DPI standards for math, or do we ever think about doing like a Cedarburg standard?
Some of the, well, so what you're describing there are some of the supplemental pieces that Wisconsin puts on the website for
Okay.
districts to utilize. So the math standards, we do have a document similar to the other ones that are linked in red that is in draft form right now. So some items are literally left off of there that we don't use when we develop coursework. So the Wisconsin standards are very robust, and there are other standards like the College and Career Readiness standards for ACT that are incorporated in our coursework development. So when I work with a team, and right now the math department at the high school actually is meeting next week as we start to do some refreshes on course overviews. So that gives them an opportunity to also identify other things that we might consider as we shape our standards. So those are the national standards. There was a day in time where you would have had separate state standards and national standards, and now you see a very cohesive set of national standards unless you're in Texas or a different state perhaps has their own. So we use them to begin the discussion when we shape our courses.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the challenge we have is if we had just our own, we have to then have them vetted and scientifically studied to show that they meet the levels of education that's required. So that's why we've always exceeded those. So that's why we take theirs as the floor and add to them for ours. But you are right, they're seeing that there are a lot of different things in those now. But again, those are not part of the standard. Those are just additional resources that we provide.
I appreciate that question.
Yeah,
And we try to be,
and then using that as a floor, then we, like Rick said, we build on it. And so there are different source materials that the department will use. So like math, for example, you've got other off-the-shelf resources that you work into the Cedarburg standards. We just haven't gotten to writing them out yet. Is that right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. We have a draft that we've developed with the elementary and middle school, and so the high school needs to be a part of that, so we make them cohesive. So you'll see something freshly linked into the stock as well as we create those.
And math was an interesting one, because I was on board when the national standard came out. Wisconsin standard was actually lower than the national standard when the new national standard came out. So Wisconsin had to raise their standards. Didn't affect us because we were already teaching beyond that, but there were districts that had to quickly catch up because the new standards were higher than what they were teaching.
Okay, thank you.
Gotcha.
I'll move to approve the standards.
I would second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
The second recommendation is the 2022-23 CISA 6 contract that will be presented by Kirsten Collins, Director of Technology and Assessment.
Good evening. Each year I come to you, the board, about this time to have our CISA contract approved by the board as required by our policy. And this, the district contracts with CISA 6 for hosting our district and school websites and providing our EduVision video portal channel or solution. So CISA, the websites and the portal are hosted by CISA 6 and they're not hosted on site. We utilize also their CMS for Schools platform for our website. The EduVision portal is used for the Webster Media room, and they do all their announcements and post them there. That's mostly what it's used for. So the annual contract requires your approval. It's within our department budgets, and the updated amount for this year is $6,180.
Questions or a motion?
Is there still, I think we talked about the website a couple of maybe months or years ago now, but my understanding is we're working on some improvements there, kind of within the CISA 6 framework. Is that right? We're still, how's that
Yes,
coming
so
along?
last year we contracted to have an update done and went through the process and used a level of service to design what we wanted. And they weren't able to provide exactly what we wanted, so we went back to the drawing board and are working on that now. Karen is leading that team as our communications and marketing coordinator. What is the date? Do we have a date yet for?
We do not, because CISA 6 is
In transition. So they just had a transition of staffing, so we're still working through that.
Are we allowed to, I'm not saying we should do, but would we be allowed to, like, let some of the students maybe get involved in the construction or the programming or the design or anything like that? It might be a good opportunity if it would work out.
So we could utilize students through our help desk and through our intern program and our community service to do some updating. And we put out posting like in the announcements and things for help with that if people are interested. And haven't gotten any interest. And generally, the CMS for Schools is a platform that it's pretty user-friendly, and just about anyone, if you can update with a word processor, you can update the website, so it's not truly coding
Okay.
to make it accessible that way. CC6 does all of that on the back end. limited opportunity, but there is some.
Thanks. Is there a motion to approve the CC6 contract?
So moved.
Second.
So motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously.
All right, the third recommendation is for donations. Tonight, we have two donations. The first is for $5,500 from the Cedarburg Education Foundation. This donation will be used to purchase a fork farm hydroponic system for Webster Middle School's green team. That system allows the school to grow lettuce within the school there. The second donation is for $1,150 from BYB Sports Investments, the Lakeshore Chinooks Baseball Club, and will be used to support the PBIS program at Parkview Elementary School.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
The hydroponic
Okay.
system, sorry. I think you mentioned that's gonna be used for the food service as well?
So when I attended the CEF meeting,
Mhm.
yes, that was the discussion, is that it would be something that they could use in science class, but they could also use it with Aramark. And Aramark currently uses that for many of their schools.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. So what's that bring our total up to for the year? 6650, because it's the first one?
Yeah. There you go.
That's right. No, no committee reports. That takes us to, is there a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn. I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. We are adjourned.